Hello, everybody. Welcome to With Wisdom, embodying energy and embracing seasons. And we are so excited, Gabby and I are so excited to welcome our guest of June, which is Rachel Blackman. Maybe we just say a quick hello, everybody, and then I'll do another little intro. Who's first?
Yeah. So I'm very excited to have Rachel here. So we trained together, or I trained with Sam 4 years ago, and Rachel was one of our wonderful trainers. I think you can get inspired for June in a playful and in a very in connecting with the invisible world in this conversation.
I know, I'm really excited. Rachel, how are you today?
Oh, thank you. I feel really honored to be invited. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's so beautiful to see you both again. Same square. I'm zooming in from Brighton in the south of the UK, and everything's just springing to life here in June. Like it's just exploding with life. Everything's so green and alive. And I'm feeling a little bit like that, actually. I've got quite a lot of projects in my life that are kind of coming into blossom. It sort of feels like so inside, so outside. And being here with you feels part of that. So it feels lovely to be here. Thank you.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here. And I love the way that you've named yourself somatic animist, coach, and artist. And we're going to find out, I'm sure, a little bit more about all of those labels that you assigned yourself today through our conversation. And I actually had quite a long list when we were doing sort of like, okay, so how does Rachel show up in the world? There was a lot of labels that I could have shared. So it's quite nice that you picked out these couple of things. But there is definitely something I think that we've got, Gabby and I've got from you, which is that playfulness, the playfulness of summer. There's something about, that's the reason why we wanted you for us to speak to us in June, because there's a playful nature around the beginning of summer. You know, people start to strip off their clothes and things, and then you know, there's something about that kind of fun that we hope that our listeners and viewers will get from the conversation today. So Rachel, we always have the same questions for our people that we interview. And there are only two questions. There will be some supplementary ones that will just happen, and we will try to be really polite with each other, but we might just jump in. If one of them, say if I'm asking a question and then Gabby gets really excited about something, she might jump in. So we're going to try and do this like we were sitting around chatting with each other, maybe around a fire pit or something on the beach in Brighton. And we're just chatting. Let's just set the scene here. And the waves are lapping on the side. So let's start with the first question. Rachel, what wisdom do you draw on for your work?
Yeah, that's such a rich question. So what's fresh in my mind right now, having just had our conversation before we press go, is the ripeness of the ripeness of seasonal and cyclical living. So for it's an eternal, a kind of never-ending learning, going deeper and deeper into the seasonal, like what this tuning to the seasonal resonance is part of my practice and my life. And I'm really curious about the solar seasons, but also the lunar seasons. And I'm sort of unlearning a whole lifetime of bad education around that kind of stuff, which I consider to be an embodied practice. Like, for example, in winter, I've learnt I need 3 weeks after the solstice, in the darkest time of the year, in the northern hemisphere, the darkest time, like the winter solstice, to just hibernate and not be public facing, go in. And it's not that I don't do any work. I do bits and pieces of work. I ran a wintering program last year, but I designed it so that it was all about supporting people to go in a way that's really nourishing and be with their inner life and do less. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, in the summer solstice, it's like the invitation is fullness. And like you say, play and adventure and being out and being with, you know, being out amongst and with and like building the bus as you drive it with your business or like that, you know. And not all these seasons, having worked with people over many years with these patterns, I've found that people don't always obey, like, because we're all kind of creatures, right? We don't always obey the rules of that solar cycle. Some people take 2 years or 3 years, or, you know, some people take a really short time, or some people are productive period. Like if they're a much more introverted inward person, that hibernation period might be something that they need to go to a lot through the year, not necessarily in the fullness of summer. Maybe the fullness of summer is too bright for them, you know.
Yes. Do you know, that's such a beautiful thing what you just said, and knowing the cycle for you, you know, whether your cycle is slightly faster than somebody else's, or you're taking a bit of a longer period, because there's that whole notion with all of us as humans that we can judge ourselves against other people, and you know, this whole my I don't think it is a word, but comparisonitis. You know, we're always like, oh, Gabby's doing this and Rachel's doing that, and you know, and Sam's doing this, and Mark, you know, and there's this constant like judging of ourselves. How do we get rid of that judgy voice? Do you have that, either of you?
I have it. I have I call it the military that inhabits myself. I remember when we trained with Rachel that we did these archetypes, embodying the archetypes. It was one of all the week, the whole weekend was quite powerful to me. But it was quite powerful to discover. I like to be this warrior or warrior energy. I like it, and I'm very grateful that I have in my life this like strength, but I had to learn also to be soft. And what you said, I'm someone that is quite outgoing, and I couldn't make my mind that I'm also needing what Rachel said. I need a lot of hibernation and quiet time, because I absorb a lot about the world, and it took me a lot to understand that. And still I have this voice, what you're saying, not this voice that's still this voice of warrior, like, oh, what are you doing, you soft here? You should be out in the world doing this and that, no? And it's a process, it's a conversation. And now I have been learning to be with all these parts of myself in a loving way. It's not like, I don't want you warrior, or I don't want you, whatever I name it, this military or whatever. It's just say, oh, thank you. You are so caring about myself and listening to you, but I'm needing this. And it's quiet in this way, at least for me. I don't know how is your experience.
That's a beautiful way of describing cultivating a relationship, of like acknowledging the place and just like sort of being with it. And then it doesn't feel like it needs to kind of run the whole show or something. It can be in its place. That's beautiful.
So you said you draw on the wisdom of the seasons. Is there anything else that you draw on in the way that you work?
Yeah, so obviously the nervous system is a big teacher for me. It's one of my primary teachers. So I am always really curious about how am I being sustainable? Am I being sustainable at the level of my being? And if I have a little hint or a little red flag that something is unsustainable, I've got some choices to make about how to be with that, whether I want to continue that relationship or that project, or or might I be able to find another way to be with it that is more sustainable, or, you know, this little cusp in myself a lot. Like you said, the horrible person in your head that's crueler to you than would ever be to anyone else, you know, that part. But also I think there's something about I for some reason I come across it mostly when I'm doing my art, like when I'm making my theatre. I'll kind of override my own limit a lot and just push myself to the point of like forgetting to eat and forgetting to like sleep at the right times and forgetting to give time to my thing, you know. So there's something about that feels like a big Tao in my life, that I'm constantly learning and relearning this thing. How I'm being sustainable? Deeper and deeper cut of that as with this work that we all do of embodiment and supporting this embodied condition. It's not as simple as it might look.
No. And how do you keep alive the conversation with your nervous system and and yourself?
Well, I do it with help because
Mhm.
I think our nervous systems are built to do it on our own. And I think that's a great big lie that we're sold.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that. Say it again.
Personal development, especially in the Western world, I think we're sold this lie that we're meant to achieve it all ourselves.
Yeah.
Our nervous systems aren't built for that. We're deeply interpersonal in our neurobiology, meaning like a tiny little baby, like babies aren't born to know how to self-regulate. They learn self-regulation through co-regulating with the mom,
Yes.
with other bodies, with a more mature nervous system, and they look in our eyes and they sense our skin, and they're smelling, and they're kind of learning self-regulation over many years with a more nervous system. We're not designed to do it on our own, and I don't think that thing, I mean, obviously we get more mature, but I don't think that thing ever leaves us because we're relational before we're anything else. Trees and with the ocean and with the mountains and the rivers and each other and the animals, with all beings, we're relational. We're relational.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's the big thing for me, is remembering I don't have to do it on my own. What about you two? What about you?
Well, about you, Gabby, first, because I've
No,
spoken.
I already spoke, so I'm
Yeah.
to
Well,
listen to you.
I absolutely, I'm so with you on that. This whole learning. So for me, it's about the R's of rest. We need to rest, learn to rest, resource ourselves, and regulate ourselves. And we do that. We can do that on our own, but we also do that in relationship with other people. So being a human, we have to do the 3 R's, but in relationship with somebody else. And that somebody else could be ourselves as well. So I think they know that sort of knowing, learning, and listening to our little triggers, but absolutely with other people. And I love the fact you said, and for me, the birds. The birds help regulate, and I have a very lovely relationship with birds around me, trees, plants, flowers. I have, and I'm going to say, I do have conversations with trees and other living things around me. And I think, why not? We're all inhabiting this earth together. Why aren't we? I'm fully into that. Fully kind of like feel that kind of energy, and it is energy for me. The energy from plants, from trees, from animals, obviously, living things, and kind of that helps resource me. Birds singing resources me. Helps regulate my nervous system.
I wonder if I might jump on that, Sam, for a moment and take that in a little direction. It's another thing that resources me is having teachers, and I always want to have teachers right up until I drop dead, even though I'm also that's a really important thing to have wise counsel. And one of my teachers, a guy called Daniel Four, who runs Ancestral Medicine, talks about even with so-called inanimate objects and things that we kind of think of as human made. There's a box of matches. Well, how might we think of them as like the aunties and uncles and the cousins of aliveness, and invite them back into this pantheon of what aliveness might be, so that stood from the kingdom of aliveness. we get back. I think that's so lovely with the human made things. Yeah,
that's true, because I have a mug on my desk which it says happiness is a warm poppy, and this gives me comfort.
Right.
Like that kind of shape, and so it is an inanimate object, but it's made from clay, as it's made from the earth.
Exactly. Made from all of our elements. There is nothing that is not made from all our elements. Great grandmother of the earth herself, like that's she's the oldest ancestor we've got, perhaps. I don't know.
Love it.
Yeah, and listening to you, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, relationality with living things or living beings. But for me, as I was mentioning before recording, it has been a vital resource in my recovery or healing path, reestablishing my relationship with my ancestors. No, the main part of my ancestry is dead. So my mom, my dad, so these very near ancestors, and going through this healing and connection with them, I feel them. I'm able to see how they are present in my life every day. So it feels more alive, this relationship. For example, Saturday I went to the library with my son and we went to pick up some books about Rome and all these things. And I found a book about a poet, a Estonian poet. So the family of my mother was from Estonia, and she turned out to be, her name is Lydia, like my mom. And it was like, I like to live in this universe, like universe is talking or life is talking to me through this. Like my mom is connected to through this book from an Estonian woman that that was daring to create poetry in her language in a time where they were not allowed to write in, even women no were not allowed to write in Estonian. They were either in Russian or German. And I myself write poetry, so I've said, oh, we are somehow united, right? So through this story. So yeah, it has been, and what you said about the objects and things, I'm also training in shamanism, and my teacher once suggested that when we could do a journey in the middle world, so in this world, the middle world is the world we live in, to the house we are living, to speak to our house. And it has been so sweet to talk to my apartment and to say, hey, how do we collaborate better together? What do you need
Nice.
from me to be in radiance? And so you feel like the love, and you pour out the love to the surroundings and feel it back. No, so it's all this, which is also keeping you seeing that you are in a world that is alive and I'm willing to be in connection and offer yourself to be in connection also.
Yeah, that's so much. I love that, talking to your apartment and what it needs. Yeah, because there's something about sometimes with clients or with colleagues when the question comes about, I'm not sure if I believe this. These days, I'm really interested to invite them into the inquiry. Well, which one feels more alive to you? Which one brings aliveness and more creativity in line? The possibility of having a conversation with your apartment, or the belief that it's dead and therefore I don't want to have a conversation with it. Which one feels more alive?
Yeah.
Much more curious to follow aliveness.
Yes.
Like follow what's dead for you. Way more interesting to me.
Yeah.
We're all in the business of supporting people to follow their own aliveness, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I have been thinking, if we make all these stories and all this narrative, what I have concluded for myself, I better construct a narrative that brings me connection, love, aliveness, and radiance, that I'm feel in charge of that, that it's not a narrative and governed by that. It's just I make the conscious choice to say, I feel connected to my plants, to my apartment, and we feel fine. So what's the problem? We feel alive and connected. So it's a useful narrative. It doesn't matter if it's true or if my apartment can talk or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. It's helping me to bring more balance and serenity. So why not use that?
Absolutely.
I love that balance piece. I want to go grabbing hold of that bit. Well, how does that land with you, Rachel?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Yeah, and there's something that takes me back to something that was actually primary in the training where I met you both at the Somatic School, of experience being first and theory or explanation coming second. And that doesn't mean it's better or worse. It just means as a biological entity, that's how we learn. We learn through experience, and then theory about it, or we make a meaning about it, or we kind of work we try and understand it. But first we have a direct experience or a primary experience. And if the primary experience is giving you aliveness, then that's the thing to stay with, right? Like it sort of doesn't need more, just because the experience is valid in and of itself, just as a pure thing. And then of course we're going to make a story about it, and we're going to make meaning of it, because we've got a meaning making brain. That's just how we're going to do that as a species, aren't we?
But
It's
we
not,
start with the story. I think the story is important as well, right?
it is important, the story we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And that piece about making the meaning, and that's sometimes where I think we can crush our own souls, Oh, am I that kind of, do I really believe this? It doesn't really matter. Like you say, if right now our energy is lifted, we've got a much more outward, open kind of view of the world, and we're in summer now, we're in that kind of sense of real kind of blooming. You used that word earlier. Yeah, then why not let that be? Just be with that. Just be with that. I'm using my hands like this because we're coming up to the summer solstice.
Yeah,
How
soon.
does that? I just want to know a little bit about how is that going to affect you, and how, or does it affect you? Is it something important to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I do a lot of seasonal teaching as well. So it's interesting we're all here together talking about the seasons. And I used to want to run something on the summer solstice, and then I'd get to the date and it would tell me that it was more important that I just go outside and not do something and
be with it.
I love, be in it.
Yeah.
Interesting, because it feels the opposite in the winter solstice. I want to be in, and it feels okay to be teaching. And then, so, yes. And so for me, I guess personally, just to talk about that thing about calibrating it and coming into relationship with it in a way that feels like the right shape for you or me personally. I've discovered over the years that I'm a sort of weirdly expressive introvert. Actually, I sort of mostly by kind of going into my cave. And I've got a very vivid inner life. So I find that I can get a bit exhausted in summer if I spend too much time around people. So I've got to kind of titrate it. I've got to kind of go have a really nice time with people and then know that there's somewhere I can go to be alone, even though the height of summer, and that's to be sustainable in this time when it's the fullness of the full,
I think that's society's expectations. It's summer. Let's go and party. Let's get out. And actually, that's not what everybody wants to do. I mean, I do love to be with people. I was at a party over the weekend, but there was a point when I kind of hit a bit of a wall, and I thought I need to be quiet now. There's still quite a lot of the day ahead of me, but I can't do any more chatting. I need to be away. And we made our kind of excuses and left, and it was really lovely for them. It was lovely there, and then the next part was lovely. To kind of have that kind of a bit more of a retreat. Yeah. Gabby, I wonder whether we're ready for our next question.
Yeah, I think we are in a good time for transitioning from coming what we take to nourish and inform ourselves and resource ourselves on what are you building on to your legacy, or how is the way you're living today contributing to your ambition legacy, and what is this legacy you're thinking or willing to leave behind?
I love that. That when I first read that question, I went, holy mackerel, that's a big question.
Well, we know you can answer it. That's why we've written it.
Much better than talking about the weather, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just give me a moment to tune in. Yes. So, so this brings me back to someone who's been both of our teachers, Gabriela, Dr. Amber McZeal, introduced me to this map from Jungian depth psychology called Big Love, Deep Need in the World. And it's just a way of mapping out desire and how it relates to the things that you care about. It's a beautiful thing to do. I do it with quite a lot of my students and clients at various points in what they're working with. And so the idea with the Big Love column, I guess, is what really touches your desire or kind of your libido or what brings you alive, to everyone. And then in the other column, it's like, what are the wounds? What's the big wounds of the world that you really care about? And that might be social justice, or it might be, I went through a big phase of being really triggered by sexual slavery. And I did a lot of research around that and donated money to the organizations, So so where does your care go and where does your desire go, and map it out. And so for me, I guess just speaking personally and my legacy, I come from a background of quite a niche Christian religion in my family called Christian Science that believes that healing is possible through correcting thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that quite challenging growing up as a teenager with a body. This a mirror touch synesthesia I have, which is a very kind of eccentric thing of sort of basically an over exaggerated response to empathy. I kind of get pain maps in my body that other people are having in their body, which is very useful for some things and very not useful for a lot of other things. Useful for some work, good for the work we do, good for being playing characters, you know, as an actor. But so I had this hypersensitive body, and I was inheriting this belief system or this sort of religious structure that was about being in spirit but not in body. And like in a way, my dharma or my legacy is this thing of like, how do I bring a spiritual practice into embodied form and be here now on the planet with my body?
Mm-hmm.
And that is my spiritual practice, you know. And so pretty much everything I've done, I've been a somatic practitioner, and I've been for like 25 years or something, and I've been a somatic coach for about 15 now, and that this work kind of really leans into the work I do as a theatre maker and as a practitioner. And you talked about all the different hats I wear, Sam. It feels like what's deep underneath that is this inquiry. It's how do I be here now in this embodied condition? And that's like my lifeline or something. That's like what. So I have like a body of work that I'm developing that I think I'll put out into the world for coaches and healers in like when I'm like in my 60s maybe, which isn't that far away.
We will wait with bated breath for that one.
It's called integrative somatic feedback, and it's about how we bring ritual and shamanic work into the somatic coaching space.
Wow.
In a way that's nervous system informed and safe. And so that's what I'm hoping will be a legacy beyond my life, if hopefully, so that this medicine can kind of be in people's grasp and their bodies and their lives, you know.
God, I feel really kind of grateful and the fact that you've just shared that with us. You know, you're sharing something really special with us right now. It just sort of really hit me here.
Thanks.
Thinking, wow, I feel like, you know, our podcast is called With Wisdom, and I feel like we've got a really wise person sitting with us. Do you not feel that, Kathy?
Since the first time I met Rachel.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honored and feel in awe to have you here. And I find so beautiful that a person like you is doing all this work and building this legacy, and also daring to be all of what you are, no? What we call the labels. It's more than a label. It's assuming that we are a multidimensional being, and that we don't need to be just one thing, but how we integrate with responsibility and also love for the people and for who we are, and so I see you like that, no? So that's the way you come to me, as a person that is honest with herself and also honest with the other people, and trying to find a way that we come into balance into this flesh and this body, and we're all what we are beyond that, right? So thank you very much, Rachel. It's an honor to have you here.
I know there's a bit of you, though, that you haven't shared yet, and we need to know a bit more about, which is the artist, performer, improv lady.
Oh, her.
You've got a show coming up soon. I think it's July.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. The show, I'll just tell you what the show's name is. It's called You Aren't Doing It Wrong If No One Knows What You're Doing.
That's a perfect title.
That's a perfect name.
And we call it a solo performance, an interactive solo performance about failure, feeling like an idiot, and music.
Oh, sounds fun. And where's that going to be?
Yeah, it's on at the Brighton Dome in July, the 16th and 17th of July. That's the southeast of England. It might be a bit far for some of you to travel home.
Yeah. Well, it's not that far from me. But the 16th of July, bang in the middle of summer, and you're
Yeah.
a one-woman show. Have you got lots of costume changes?
Well, no, not really. There's a few. It's very much a collaborative effort, though. Like it's solo, as in I'm the person on stage, but I have a big team of people who are creative collaborators who've created it with me. It definitely feels like I'm not alone, even though I am in that moment when I'm on stage. And the show, it sort of might look from the outside like it's very different to work I do with somatics, but actually it's really not. And that's because it's like it's tending to this question about how we give ourselves such a horrible time when we make mistakes. I don't know. Let me talk about myself. I'm awful to myself when I make a mistake. I'm my worst enemy. And so my question coming into this creative process was having come down lineage of a bunch of classical musicians, which all my family are, which is so things have to be so perfect. How do I metabolize that and allow myself permission to be a bit of a mess and make mistakes? Because how does learning happen if we don't iterate and make mistakes? To make a mistake is the most creative thing any of us can do. And so I want to kind of set that invitation free in the minds of our audience and like to sort of play with it a little bit. And I can't pretend I've got any answers, but the play asks these questions, you know. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing to allow ourselves to not know and to adventure without knowing. For me, it has been quite a journey because I left my corporate job like 5 years ago, and I trained and I did, and many of the things I had in my brain that I had to achieve or do didn't work out in the way my brain wanted them to be. And there was a point, as this 3 years ago, when I said that I was in this deep grieving and very dark time. It was part of that feeling like a big failure, not to think I was having all, because I was in a big company, in a big position with earning a lot of money, and I did all what it was supposed to do, like getting a degree and doing a PhD, and nonetheless my soul was crying for a different thing. And this different thing is like, I feel like it's life telling, come dear, come with me. Maybe everything's going to be a disaster, but you should come. You know, I cannot assure you everything's going to be all right, but you should dare to come there. And I think that's a beautiful journey to be there. It might not be in the way our brains or our society expects, but it has been quite a profound journey for me that I can then leave the legacy to my son of different things, of a calm mother who is not stressed out and shouting so I think already in that sense I'm a success. It's just I was measuring my success in a different way.
Oh gosh, I'm so touched when you say life said, come with me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I picture it, you know, like saying, yeah, dear, come with me. I cannot assure you everything's going to be all right, but it's going to be quite a journey to come to peace.
I love that. And why wouldn't you choose that? Come with me.
Oh my gosh, this has been such a rich conversation. Well, we do need to let you go. Not that we want to. We do need to let you go. And in our show notes, we've got show notes now. Show notes, we're going to have, you know, how people can contact you. You need to say, I mean, how can people contact you?
Oh, well, my website is my somatic coaching website's vibrantbody.co.uk. And so it's just Rachel at vibrantbody.co.uk. But you see all that in your show notes, I guess.
Yes. And which social media platform do you show up most on?
Oh, that's a good question. I use Instagram and Facebook. Don't love them, but I do use them. And I coach myself to use LinkedIn more.
Yeah. Okay. So we can find you in various places, as well as the Brighton Dome, if we head down to Brighton in July.
Oh.
Over to you, Gabby.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Rachel, for being here today with us, sharing your energy, your being with us. It has been quite an honor and, as always, so inspiring and deep deep wisdom. So thank you from my heart to yours.
Thank you for mine. I
Yeah.
love it. I've got so many takeaways that I
Yeah.
want to ponder as well.
Thank you
And
so much for the invitation. I just feel so blessed to be here and have spent this time with you both. It's a real honor.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
thank you everybody watching us. So you will find more about Rachel in the notes of the video, and we see each other again another Wednesday with wisdom. Bye-bye.
Bye.